Why would you want to cite an unjournal evaluation in your research or white papers, and how would you do so? Let me share you my screen. So there's a few reasons you might want to do so. All right, so you're looking at a paper, you're thinking of citing it. It hasn't been published in a peer-reviewed journal, or maybe it has, but you want to give a sense of what the credibility of it is. You want to have a sense, and you want to convey that to your readers. Um, Particularly if you're doing a sort of synthesis or comparative evaluation across papers. All right, so you're looking at this paper and you see, oh, look at this. There's a evaluation the Unjournal did. What's this all about? So I go over there. I come to the Unjournal's page. Um, I see, okay, evaluation summary. This covers the two evaluations, and I can look into each evaluation. Now, why might I want to cite the evaluations? Well, maybe the evaluations make an interesting point that I haven't seen elsewhere. Maybe I want to cite the evaluations for what they say about the paper and how credible the paper is. We ask them to state specific claims the papers make and identify the extent to which they believe it quantitatively. We ask them to give quantified ratings. You can look at all of these quantified ratings. Some people don't give them in full, but for these different categories. So you might want to cite this to give a sense of the credibility of the paper or perhaps the limitations to the credibility of the paper. Um, okay, and the evaluators might also suggest particular methods to use that you chose to use in your comparable situation, or maybe you are the authors of this paper and you're following through on those suggestions, and you want to explain why you're doing so, citing the explanation given by the evaluators can add a bit of a better explanation and credibility to that. Okay, how do I cite them? Well, I would typically recommend if you're citing the general unjournal evaluation for the credibility of the paper, then maybe cite the evaluation summary. How do I do that? Well, I might have seen a link to citation in Google Scholar, but even if I didn't, I can copy the DOI here. Our evaluation summary gets a DOI. Each evaluation gets a DOI. If the author responds, also interesting, that gets a DOI. So I can look up the DOI, put that into my citation tool. Or PubPub also gives you these various, citation format options, including BibTeX. Okay, so that gives you the why and the how to cite it, I think. Um, and let me just give some, you can see if you go to our data dashboard, you can look at the ranges of the ratings according to different criteria. You can compare papers by different criteria. Uh, you can see that you can also see how does this paper rate relative to everything else in our sample. Offers quite a bit of credibility, I would say, to the ratings. Okay, so then how would you cite it? Or what would it look like for you to cite it? Well, you'd say something like, there's evidence that a substantial number of people for a different paper make rule-based decisions, uh, or people make non-utilitarian choices in certain types of social dilemmas or settings like the trolley problem. And then you could cite, for instance, evidence comes from this paper, which was also evaluated as credible by two Unjournal evaluators. You could give the ratings they gave it there. One of them, in fact, stated their confidence in this main claim. If I can find it, if I still have it up on my screen, yeah. This was the main claim of the paper. He says he gives his confidence interval there. He also gives some interesting comments, as I said, maybe critiques that you might, or discussions you may not have seen elsewhere, you want to cite directly. Right. So, I cite it. As I mentioned, this is the PubPub interface itself. So I can add in a footnote, or might want to add the discussion of the Unjournal in a footnote if I feel like it disrupts the narrative flow. But otherwise, I can add a citation, and well, not every citation tool works, but in this case, this tool recognizes it. Otherwise, just paste it in at the bottom. You use your BibTeX or whatever other referencing tool you like. Okay, you've implemented a methodological check. You can say, we did the following checks for the following reasons. Footnote, this resembles the situation of the Atsumolu paper or whatever the authors were, which is similar in the following ways. And it was also recommended by one or both evaluators for the Unjournal for the following reason. Give the citation there. Again, if you're updating your paper, you can say, this change follows a suggestion by the Unjournal evaluators. Give a quote, give a footnote, link the Unjournal evaluation. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you have questions. You can reach out to me. Let me know if you're using this, how you're using this, how we could make it more useful.